Hey, Vinny Malkus Outdoors. Excuse me. We're here. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about spinning reels, just give you a quick update. So we made it through the fire. The fire got down to like a mile and a half from my house. And there was some evacuation stuff going on, but everything's still standing and we're here still talking about fishing. So anyway, I'm going to talk about spinning reels because that's, permeated the bass fishing world more and more over the years, with finesse really taking over a lot of the aspects of tournament fishing. Now, there's a lot of reels on the market, and it's good to know what you're looking at, especially if you fish a lot of spinning reels, because your spinning reel it's one of those reels that has some components that can easily break or fail you on the water. Now, we'll pull this guy up here because this is kind of like a cheapy, but actually not a bad reel for the price. Of course, I've lost the cap on it. Now, in most of the reels you go to a reel bar and you see them all, whatever, strung across the span of the bar there, you're going to see some things. They all look the same, essentially, besides maybe size, maybe color, maybe some of them look cooler than others, but there's some things you want to look out for. And the first one that I visually see, and is probably one of the most important ones, is the bail itself. And the bail, if you're not familiar with that, is this metal apparatus that goes around roughly a little over half the way around the reel itself. Now, when I'm looking at these things, and I will say this is, like I said, this is probably the most important thing for me, especially fishing from, well, just fishing in general. But in the boat, your reels are constantly getting beat up. From rough water, you might toss them down on the ground, or who knows, but this is one of the areas where this reel takes a lot of abuse outside of just fishing. So when I'm looking at a bail, and let me pull up a good one, because this is what I look for in a bail. And right here is an old CI4, awesome reel, and even the new iterations are really good. But you see this bail here, it is actually one piece, and that's what I'm looking for. Now, as you go around, now that you know what I'm talking about, you'll notice that probably 90 or 80%, 85% of the reels, especially on the lower end of the market, on the price points, they're not going to be one piece. In fact, this will be a piece, and this bail will come around and it will enter there, and you'll see that they're two pieces. Or like on this one, which is probably better than it, which is better than that, but it's still not good, which I don't think the camera will pick up on this. But this bail, while it looks like it's one piece, it's actually sleeved. And that's pretty rare to see. It kind of looks like one piece. It's like a little sleeve and glued or welded or something. I don't know, probably not welded, but put together right there. Now, these other bails that have the apparatus that comes around and goes in here, they're notorious for getting loose. They get banged up on the boat deck. You kind of just set them around here and there, they get loose, and they're points of failure. It's one of my pet peeves, actually. I hate having it. I want a single piece bail. I also want something that's smooth. Obviously, you want the bearings inside, not the grind. There shouldn't be hardly any resistance. But that's pretty much, everybody knows to look for that, right? So that would be, I said that was the second thing, but actually the second most important thing is the drag system on this. And it might arguably be the most important thing. I look for the bail thing for longevity. The drag system is probably, when you're fishing, it is the most important thing, because that is your connection, or your connection point's your line, but this is where that connection point between the fish and you you're right. I'm losing my mind here, but anyway. So one of the things I do when I'm looking at these spinning reels is I'll actually pop this baby off, and I just want to see like what it is. Like, is this top part, where all the friction points on this bail or on this spool, where is it? This has a little bit of lubrication on it, and it's actually rubber. But I pull this thing off, I'm gonna look, I just wanna see what's going on inside. I wanna see that, some of the friction points here, which is this area. I'm gonna turn it on, I'm gonna or turn it on. I'm going to screw this back on and just kind of play with it a little bit and see what it does. If you have a line like this one, pull it. But if you're in the shop, it's probably not going to have a line, right? So you're going to go like this. I just want to see how smooth it is. If there's any kind of hesitation while you're making a rotation, it's probably not good. You want the drag to be smooth, because when a fish, roars, all of a sudden he decides to take off. Any kind of hesitation, any kind of catch in there is going to cause excess amount of torque, or not torque. Torque is rotational, but it's going to cause more pressure on the line, instantaneous pressure, and it's going to, any weak point in the line is going to snap. But if you have your drag set right and it's smooth, sometimes you can get away with having a nick here and there. And you can play around with it where you're fighting a fish here, you got it, and you notice that he's, having a little bit of issues taking line. You kind of just play with it a little bit because you want it just right where he's, there's some resistance against him, but it's applied consistent resistance, and the fish, as he pulls, he encounters that resistance a little bit. It's hard. It's like being on, for people that work out, it's like having, putting weight on the machine, and you have the consistent resistance. It's just a little bit harder work, right? So you're tiring him out, and you want to let him do most of the work, and then also using your rod. But anyway, so you need that bell system to be working for you. The other thing I kind of look at is cosmetically, caps. Are they screw on? Like that one fell off. You don't want that. You want to, you don't want these plasticky caps, which this one, even though it's a solid reel, it's kind of a plastic cap, but it has issues. The other thing is to make sure the reel is comfortable with the rod you're going to be fishing. In this case, this is like a 6/8 medium light. And what I do here is, you can balance them out where you have to store. Of course, I'm not going to do that right here just because, it doesn't matter. This is a pretty solid, expensive rod at one point. It's older NRX. Anyway, I have it here with a CI4 2500. Now, the 2500 is usually a good all-around starting point for most spinning rod applications. When you get into these really lightweight reels, you can go down to 1,000 or whatnot. 1,000 is pretty good if you balance it out. And reason being is the lighter the weight, it seems like you can balance the rod out, which helps you transmit bites and transmit, your ability to transmit vibrations through the line to the rod, and ultimately to you, which ultimately marginally helps you catch more fish, right? And anyway, so that is kind of the things that I look at the most. Now, the other thing to mention is once you get into the larger spinning reels, it does kind of counterbalance the rod a little bit more. Some people like those larger spinning reels, but it's one of the things, even on the professional level, I see guys that are kind of don't fish with spinning reels that much. They throw these large 3,000 series or above spinning reels, or kind of cheapies, and they're kind of just overweighted for the rod. And they're kind of missing out at one, just over the course of the day, that kind of sucks fishing to that. But two, you're not allowing your rod to be, if you got a real expensive rod on there, you're not giving it the tools for success. Let's just say you're not utilizing it to its full potential. I would say the other thing with that is a lot of people are concerned when they came to the spinning reel side is line capacities. And most people nowadays, now, at a 2500 series, I wouldn't worry about line capacity, even if you're running straight fluoro or whatever, unless you're running like 16, 20 pound tests, which if you're running a spinning reel, you're probably not doing that. You're running 10 and below, maybe 12 at the high end. And most of us that are finesse fishermen are running 8, 6 to 4, or some crazy people out there with 2 pound tests too. So you're not really worrying about that. 2, a lot of us finesse fishermen now are running the braid, which I've done it since I was a kid, and I've kind of gone back and forth from it, but now I'm just consistently running the braid to fluoro leader. So your fluorocarbon, or your braids, have a significantly lower diameter than your traditional lines, or your fluorocarbon, so you're getting a huge amount of line on the spool. In fact, when you spool up a spinning reel, I run either monofilament or a fluorocarbon backing, just to wrap the spool itself. And the reason being is, I'll keep picking this thing up and I'll just show you the spool here. The reason being is when fish does pull and you're utilizing the drag or whatnot, there's a tendency if you run the braid straight to certain spools. There's some spools that are made with little rubber rings around them or the rubberized, but sometimes that will actually slip on the spool. It's just the nature of the how braid is. But anyway, if you run that backing and you splice those lines, you mitigate that problem, and then you just run all your braid on there, and the braid lasts for God knows how long, however you want to take care of it for the most part for years. And then at the same time, you're just buying a spool of fluorocarbon and utilizing segments however you want to run your leaders for the most part. I like to run like 18, 24 inches depending on where I'm at. And then that fluorocarbons, you're getting an extra mile out of that fluorocarbon spool. Of course, you got to also change that because fluorocarbon doesn't have an infinite lifespan, so you end up changing that out more than anything. But that is the rundown on the spinning reels for the most part. I mean, there's little intricacies about utilizing them or whatnot, but when I go look at one, like I said, the bail, the spool itself and its relationship to the drag, so the drag system, the smoothness of it, the bearings inside. It's not necessarily always the number of bearings, because like you look at some Shimano reels have less bearings than a lot of other guys, but the quality of the bearing is where it's at. You're also looking at the cap, the various mechanisms around there, plastic things, points of failure in particular, and then the size in relation to the rod, the system that you're utilizing, because you want it to be balanced. You want it to transmit, and being balanced helps you feel those bites, helps you transmit those vibrations, those feels, those little nicks and things that are going on underwater through and into your hand, which ultimately leads to catching more fish. And if you don't believe that, you just gotta watch some videos and actually watch some fish bite, and you realize that some of those bites, how you're detecting a bite is not always the same as how they're biting. And sometimes you get a lot of bites without even knowing. So having the ability to detect even the subtlest movement of your bait helps you catch more fish in the end. Anyway, I want to leave it there. That was a little thing. We're getting ready to go check where we were trout fishing. We're going to go check that hopefully here soon after the fire, because I'm kind of curious to see how the browns were actually spawning in there before we left. And then there's a few other little places around where I'm at that have some bass, and we're getting to that time of year where it's getting colder and the fish are feeding up for the fall and getting ready for that winter. Their winter haunts, and up here, they don't get really touched in some of these ponds, so they just kind of hunker down. I guess their metabolisms go to nothing for a little while. But anyway, we got that. We got some stuff for the boat. Like I said, we're still figuring the boat thing out because of where the damage was. Like I said, there was a catastrophic failure in my brake system. We got hit by another motorist at one time in the past. So we're just looking at weighing what it costs to do this and what insurance would cover for this stuff, because catastrophic brake failure, I was trying to see if we can actually weld that, and it might not be the most safe thing, right? Because I don't know how they, you'd have to talk to a trailer manufacturer, but it's not something I feel comfortable doing. I had a guy who's gonna do it, but it's like, okay, we weld this together, then we gotta put the brakes on it, and like it'll probably never be the same, right? So we're gonna look at this. I mean, it's a good boat, it's a good trailer. I don't know what happened with the brake system. It just, things after traveling the country, fishing and stuff, mechanical things go wrong, and that's just the nature of maintenance. You just got to keep up with it, and sometimes you can't help it. But anyway, I'll talk to you later. Peace.